Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Today, Paul and I are here to talk about our paper, AI Ethics Statements, Analysis and Lessons Learned from NeurIPS Broader Impact Statements. So AI is serious ethical business, and this shouldn't sound like a radical statement, but as our research shows, not everyone gets it. However, we believe that researchers cannot disregard the serious ethical ramifications of their work, but in order to encourage engagement, we need governance mechanisms. As researchers, we are the first line of defense against negative impacts, bias and discrimination, privacy violations, environmental impact, the list goes on. And yet we see time and time again negative applications in policing, hiring, you add to the list. So our approach was a close study of the NeurIPS 2020 requirement that all papers include a broader impact statement. So we wanted to see how researchers responded and engaged, and was it an effective mechanism for encouraging reflection. So now I'll hand it over to Paul, who will talk a little bit about our data and a summary of our findings.
Thank you, Emmie. So a big part of our paper was just collecting this data and making it available. And what that looked like was first downloading all the PDF papers from the NeurIPS proceeding website and converting them to XMLs to be more easily scraped. And that way we were able to get, for each paper, the author names, their institutional affiliations, and the actual text of the impact statements, which was the new requirement by NeurIPS in 2020. To that, we added subject areas, what the papers were about, as well as locations of institutional affiliations by country. And we hand-coded opt-out rates for about 350 statements, the shorter ones, and considered that the longer ones were all not opt-outs since authors had written that much. The opt-out option was given by NeurIPS to researchers who believe that their paper was not applicable to have broader impact statements if it was too theoretical, for example, in which case they could simply write not applicable. The final data looks something like this. It has the different categories in columns, and there's also a GitHub where you can download this data in CSV, some other information, as well as links to a visual representation of the data. And you see here some examples of what that looks like. It was different ways of organizing and showing by different types of affiliation, region, subject area, what the word count looks like for these broader impact statements, whether authors had opted out, where in the world they came from, etc. We found that engagement after analyzing this data varied highly based on these different institutional affiliation, subject, or geography. And you have here, for example, the long tail of the distribution of length of broader impact statements. We measured engagement by both lengths and opt-out rates. You also see that depending, and this is just an example, on different affiliations, papers could be longer, industry papers tended to be longer, or they could opt out more often, as academic authors tended to do. We also found common themes of privacy, fairness, robustness, and safety, which came up in the frequency analysis we did on words used in broader impact statements. But this also shows not only what researchers tend to associate with broader impact discussions, but also what they don't mention, which can be equally interesting. Along those lines, we found that authors tended to discuss positive impacts more than negative ones. And we did this by looking at the mean occurrence of positive or strength-related synonyms in broader impact statements, or the percentage of statements that included these kind of synonyms. And you see here that there's a clear difference between positive, negative, or strength-related and limitation-related synonyms. Finally, from the discussions we had around the analysis, we derived lessons for self-governance mechanism more broadly. 3 of them are presented here. It's the importance of creating the right incentives came up as a crucial one. And that would help, for example, go against the natural incentive to downplay negative incentives for to downplay negative implications for authors, which goes against the entire goal, which was to help them dig deeper into the implications of their work. Also, the need for clear expectation and guidance to avoid authors choosing to opt out because they're presented with a new task that they're not familiar with. And lastly, the importance of including those researchers into the deliberations and the construction of these mechanisms that we hope will help them elicit the implications of their work. What do we hope to get out of this paper? First of all, that it contribute to more ethical research, but specifically, we hope to encourage, to solidify, and to equip individuals and conference organizers to help engage with ethical impacts of the research or the research they present, and to make room for that reflection in research output. And this goes for conference organizers such as FACT, but also individual researchers who, beyond the requirements of their conference or journal, hope to engage more deeply. Thank you very much.
Thank you.